Alrighty, guys, welcome back to Regenerate Your Health with Jake Gallen. It is me again for another episode, and I'm here with an awesome guy, Bryan from Breathverse, and he pretty much covers the area that I really don't see many people covering. And he's going to go into some great detail here today over the importance of breath and this other nervous part of the other nervous system. Essentially, the other side of the coin, really, is the way I analogize it with clients. And I've been a follower of Bryan for a few years now, and I've applied his principles and I recommend my clients to go to him as well with the importance of movement and breath and the connection between two and a diet as well. And my understanding is Bryan lives a high fruit diet. He's a very strong uh, individual physically, and you can see emotionally and mentally as well. So there's a lot to glean and learn from here today from Bryan. So without further ado, mate, thanks so much for coming on and giving your time today. And I really appreciate you being here. This is going to be an awesome episode.
Well, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I'm humbled to be on your show. Thank you so much for inviting me. And hello to all your listeners. And this is going to be great today. I'm really excited because what I want to do is, like you talked about, two sides of the coin is when we
Mm,
talk about food, we're talking about the enteric nervous system, but
mm,
it influences the vagus nerve because your vagus
mm,
nerve is in the old days, excuse me, in the old days, they called it the pneumogastric nerve, not the vagus. And that's your
mm,
solar plexus. So that
mm,
gastric nerve is, sensing the gastrointestinal system. So if we eat poorly, our nervous system, our rest and digest system is never in rest and digest because we're eating poorly. But the poor eating, that's anything above raw, right? Because it really is anything above raw is actually creating inflammation in the gut,
mm,
no matter what it is. Although the best thing to do, like you said, I train a lot of athletes, a lot of Olympians, and they're like, I'm like, if you really need to eat meat, then you can only eat meat without anything else, right? That's the biggest thing is like we have to be able to let our digestive system digest one food at a time because 10 however 10,000, 12,000 years ago when we were roaming the earth, we weren't able to mix and match. We didn't make a plate. We'd come up to an orchard of blueberries. For the orchard would be for as far as the eyes could see. There wasn't
mm,
like berry tree, a strawberry tree, a banana tree. That's not how Earth was. It would be so spread out, and then the
mm,
person hominid would have to walk to find the next batch of food, and that could take days. And that's where fasting comes in. And they're like, "Well, fasting's so good for you." Well, not necessarily,
yeah.
because it depends on how dirty or clean you are and how fast those
Mm,
toxins release into your body. And that's very important when we talk about the enteric nervous system, which is the side, and then the central nervous system, which is the cranial side. And
mm,
being a raw foodist cannot uh, change the sensory inputs. It can influence them because the vagus nerve is one of the cranial nerves.
mm,
So it can influence it. It can make you feel better, but it won't change your nervous system issues if you have core nervous system issues like not being able to breathe very well. Some people will experience, oh, I'm breathing a little easier, but I have a friend who's been fruitarian their whole life, 38 years, and they were not breathing well.
mm,
Not breathing well at all. She was apically breathing, she was clavicular breathing, and meanwhile, she went to my acupuncturist, and the acupuncturist said her organs are in great shape, but her overall nervous system needed support. So, on an
mhm,
energetic level, if you have any kind of trauma, whether it be emotional or physical, that's going to alter your brain function. And no amount of food, even the right food, is going to bring that brain function back.
mm,
So I got my start because I became, uh, I started with Wim Hof 9 years. It's almost 9 years ago. Yeah. So 9 years
Wow.
ago. And I quickly felt that hyperventilation was terrible for me. It was not working for me. Everything was going wrong. My hands would seize up. They're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's supposed to." I'm like, "Do you?"
I had that. Yeah, the hand sort of curled in when you were doing a lot of cycles.
Yeah, of course, because you're vasoconstricting your body from hyperventilation. There's nothing good about vasoconstriction.
Wow.
Nothing. It's so. Unfortunately, he's a snake oil salesman, and I don't know if he knows
Mm,
that, but I
yeah.
think he does now because people, especially Scott Carney, they're really going after him, and Scott Carney's the
Mm,
one who made him famous. But so breathing controls your blood pH, whereas raw food affects the interstitial pH. And the interstitial pH is the lymphatic system.
yeah.
It's space around every cell in your body, but that's not your blood. The only thing that can affect your blood pH is your breath, not food at all. You don't you don't get alkaline because you eat alkaline. You get alkaline because your body removes acids. That's what people don't get. They're like, "Oh, I'm on an alkaline diet." Well, you're supposed to be, because you're supposed to
Mm,
eat foods that don't create pus and mucus. Even fruit has a little bit of mucus, especially if you're eating coconuts and bananas and durian, right? But it's a lot better than meat would or
mm,
processed vegan foods. So there's that two differences, another side to the coin, two sides of the coin when it comes to
mm,
pH. And when I became a breathing instructor, October will be 8 years. Um, I had to get clean first from the blood perspective. And it was about a year and a quarter into my breathing journey where all of a sudden, I don't know, I started to feel like I didn't want to eat uh, cooked food anymore. And I would call
mhm,
myself vegan, but now I don't even put labels on it. Now I don't call myself anything. I say I'm on a mucus free lifestyle. And when I
mhm.
choose to eat food that is going to create more mucus, that's up to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't. No vegan can say, "Oh my God, he's not vegan." No, no, I don't listen to anybody out there. I'm on a mucus free lifestyle, and if I choose to eat something that's mucus forming, I mean, I would never have flesh. I haven't had flesh in 13 years. So
Yeah.
yeah, no eggs, no chickens, no fish, no meats. For
Mhm,
me, the step down is bread sometimes,
mhm,
uh, vegetables sometimes,
mhm,
salads if I go out in restaurants, which I don't often. But if I have to go to a restaurant and there's salad on the menu, they're going to have oil and vinegar on it.
mhm.
And I'm not going to not eat it when it's the only thing on the menu I can
Yeah.
eat.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'll go out to restaurants with people and I'll have the salads, or I'll even have two salads, or I'll have
Mhm,
salad. I'll try to find what the best vegetable that they have on the menu that isn't cooked in oils and salts. It's not always easy to do. That's why I don't go out very often. So,
mm,
a year and a quarter into my journey, once I started to regulate my blood pH, I started to gravitate to a cleaner diet. I felt that the food I was eating wasn't benefiting me. And then,
mm,
as fate would have it, I started seeing Dr. Sebi come up on my YouTube. And I don't know why. Dr. Sebi was coming up. So I started watching some of his videos and I was like, oh, wow. Oh my gosh. I started listening to all the
mm,
things he was saying about food and
mm,
raw foods and reversing illnesses. I mean, I had never heard that. I have a college, background, and everything I learned was from a textbook. And now I realize everything I've learned, I need to unlearn. So
mm.
I knew nothing about eating. I didn't know anything. Even when I was thinking I was vegan, I was eating cooked food. And
Yeah.
you want to call yourself a vegan, you're not eating cooked food. You could say I'm
Mhm.
eating cooked vegan, but there's no such thing as being vegan if you cook your food.
Mm,
Vegan is, you live on the land, you live raw. Um,
mm,
whatever, whatever. I mean, it's apples and oranges. It doesn't really mean anything. But
mm.
so I started, then Dr. Morse videos started getting pushed to me. And then I
Yeah.
started watching Dr. Morse and I was like, okay, I really relate to this guy. He speaks very clearly. I can understand everything he's saying. And I started diving in and I started watching hundreds. I watched hundreds of his videos. I was totally hook, line, and sinker. And I said, wow, if people can reverse all types of diseases, and a guy can get up from being paraplegic, then I know I have issues that I need to cure because I was riddled with joint pain. My eyesight was going bad. My
Yeah.
hearing wasn't as good, because I was 40. I'm 56 now, and I started this diet 6.5 years ago, a little bit more. So I was 48 when I started. So I
Wow.
had 48 years of eating mostly protein my whole life, except for the last 13 years.
Mm,
And when I say mostly protein, I mean like overdoing it my whole life because I wanted to be big and strong, right? And now I
mm,
realize that the the protein doesn't build muscle at all, not even a little bit. All it does
mm,
is make you have more calories. And when you work out, more calories give you more ability to build muscle. That's
mm,
how. And then the body
mm,
is those proteins, it's going to break them down into acids, and then it's going to take those acids and it's going to put it into a muscle cell. It's going to put it into a fat cell because it needs to keep those acids away from your vital organs. That's why people
mm,
get tumors. That's why they have liver
mm,
stones, because the body's forcing all the acids together, and then it puts a protective layer of fascia around it. So,
mm,
um, so Dr. Morse really blew my mind, and I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I was like, I'm a wrestler. I'm believing in the teachings. It's making a lot of sense to me because I always use my critical mind. I do not say, oh my God, that's so stupid, especially I lived that whole life. So I went
yeah.
for it. My acupuncturist said to me, I don't think you should do this. And I said, why, Dr. Ming? He said, because you need protein. I said, oh, I guess I never told you I'm vegan. I haven't eaten protein in 5 years. And he said, well, eat more. You need to eat a lot more. I don't really think this diet's good for you, but eat as much as you need. So I needed to. Every 30 minutes, I was ravenously hungry because I went cold turkey. I went right
Mm,
into raw food, and that's not a very good thing because it messed with my teeth because
mm-hmm.
I didn't do
Amen.
I didn't do it
Yeah.
the right way. I
Yeah.
went full on into it, and I started releasing a lot of acids.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a Dr. Morse trained specialist. I just did it on my own, just by watching
Mm,
videos. Okay, I could figure it out. Um, but I wasn't trained. So, but after a month, he would listen to my pulse and he would go, "Wow, this diet's working for you. You should stay on it, and I'm learning from you." And I said, "Oh, cool." And then 9 months later, because it was 10 months in, he said, "Bryan, what you've done with your organs is nothing short of remarkable. I've never seen anything like it." He's like, "If this is 100% kidney function, you were down here in sub basement level 8." He's
mm,
like, "That's your primordial energy." And what I saw in your pulses was that you were losing life. You had
mm,
used all of your vitality. He goes, and with people of your condition, I'm just trying to help them not get worse. And I was like, wow, thank I knew I was bad to begin with, but I didn't know that it was that bad, even though my original acupuncturist said, guys like you have a heart attack in your 60s and die. And I was
mm,
like, what? So that's why I
mm,
went food. I was like, I'm cleaning myself out and I'm going to cure myself because I want to live a long life. And at that moment, it was about, okay, now I want to live to 120, 150. Now I realize I don't care about that. All I care about is making the right decisions right now, which is
mm,
choosing the right thing to put in my body. And then
mm,
if I do that, if I make right action, take right action, be right integrity, then I'm always going to put my best foot forward. And that's my philosophy now, is about winning the day every day with your choices.
mm,
Because you don't have the past. If you make a bad choice, it doesn't matter anymore. I
mm.
can't, oh my God, I can't believe I drank coffee again. No, you just gotta start over.
Yeah.
Um, within 10 months, I had cleaned my lymph a lot to where he saw my primordial chi energy starting to come back up. And he was like, oh my God, I've never seen this before. I didn't even know it was possible. So the raw food cleaned out my interstitial spaces, and it
Mm,
brought the interstitial pH back to a more alkaline level, which allowed me to get more hydration. And the hydration
mhm,
started to take my stiffness away. I used to wake up in the morning stiff. I used to wake up and have to blow my nose. Now
Mm-hmm.
I can wake up and I can literally just sprint. I don't have to warm up. I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
stretch. Get out of bed, not feel groggy, and literally just run.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Jake, that's pretty much my story in terms of I started with breathing, then that got me to the raw food, and then I realized as I've been a breathing coach now for almost 8 years, that people who are eating raw also need central nervous system training. So then I
Yeah.
realized, oh, there's two parts of the coin. So that's what I try to do. I try to come at it from those two sides. And then on the energetic level, it's about being in stillness,
Yeah.
because stillness
Yeah.
is the most important thing in your life is stillness. That's why sleep is so important. And what do you do when you sleep? You're usually pretty still. That's when you regenerate. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not that you need to meditate, it's that you need to live with mindfulness, because the Buddha, even though he attained enlightenment during meditation, what he realized was that you don't have to sit still and get there. You should be living that life because you are the
Mm-hmm.
expression of that source. So it's about living with mindfulness. And I think when you eat a clean diet, like being raw with mostly fruits, you make better choices because you have more vibration in your body. You have more phytonutrients. You have more sugars. You have more feel good hormones. And then it allows you to continue to gravitate to things that serve your highest good.
Mm. Man, I love that, Brian, because you covered so many important points about your own experience and then working with other practitioners who saw the change and were shocked because most people aren't changing their diet that much. They're not eating foods that are vibrating on a higher frequency. We have Kirlian photography to help that. We have the angstrom levels, levels of electromagnetic energy. And I say to my clients, no need to focus so much on calories, focus more on what's the energy of the food, what's it giving your body, what's it allowing your body to do. The same way, if you are shallow breathing and you are, I've heard you say in your videos before, if you're working out to failure and you're panting, your nervous system is just through the floor. And that would be my
Yeah.
next question is what happens when people push themselves too far in their life, when they work out with foods, and what does that do to the body, and where should they make those changes, especially those that are in the raw food or fruit world that may avoid working out because they feel they don't need to, or they aren't aware of what their breath is doing, and being conscious and aware and on top of that.
Yeah. Great question. It's actually very simple. I think Dr. Morse says it best. It's all about acid, alkaline. So if
Mm,
I'm heavily breathing and I'm removing all this carbon dioxide from my body, there's not going to be enough oxygen to keep the inflammation down. So as you're working out and you're going, oh, and you feel the burn in your body, it's because the burn means you've burned through all your oxygen and your
mm,
body's producing at the interstitial level acids from
mm,
lactate. And then where do those acids go? They stay in your system. And then you keep collecting them and collecting them and collecting them. Next thing you know, I got elbow pain. I have shoulder pain because the acids they compress like snowflakes on top of one another, and then they become ice. And the fascia solidifies and it calcifies at the deep level. That's why people
mm,
lose flexibility. It's why they're stiff. So really, it's about changing the interstitial and blood pH, and that's how you harmonize your system. So if you're exercising and you're breathing out through your mouth and you think it's okay, it's not okay, because the cheetah and the antelope only mouth breathe after the chase, and that's so they can pant to remove the excess because they're going anaerobically, right? They're all out. So when they finish an anaerobic event, they got to dump the acids. So your body's going to dump that toxic buildup. So here comes the alkaline of the blood, right? Sprinting as fast as I can, and as soon as I'm done, I need to get rid of this lactate, and it's going to come out as excess carbon dioxide. And then the burn is going to be in my tissues, but it's going to be coming out. So then the animal will pant to remove the excess heat, so not to take it in. And then as they pant, they're standing, then they sit, they're still panting, then they lie down, the cheetah. It's still panting. And all of a sudden, the mouth closes. It's
Mm,
always back to closing the mouth. It doesn't stay open. So,
mm,
we can use it as a competitive athlete. You can use mouth breathing because you may have to because you're not trained to breathe through your nose the whole competition. But it's not good for you because you're losing energy. There's a physiological law of cellular respiration. And you know how like in Dr. Morse's stuff and Jensen and Eric, there's laws, right? Well,
mhm,
Eric's law is vitality equals power minus instructions.
mm,
So the law of cellular respiration is if I have a red blood cell, everybody knows that red blood cells carry oxygen. So there's oxygen inside this red blood cell, but it's not free. It's not bouncing around. It's bound to a protein called hemoglobin. So now the hemoglobin, the oxygen is attracted to the hemoglobin that's inside the red blood cell, and now it's moving through your body. But the oxygen is stuck. It's bound to the hemoglobin. And the only way to get it unbound is in the presence of carbon dioxide. So, but Brian, you just told me carbon dioxide was bad. If I'm working out really hard and I'm panting, I need to remove it. Yeah, you need to remove the excess. But there's
mm,
a number, a blood marker called end tidal TIDAL CO2. So it's at the end of a passive exhale, how much carbon dioxide is left in your blood. And there's a sweet spot, just like there's a sweet spot for your body temperature, for your blood pH. They're not set in stone markers. There's a little bit of a push and pull on both ends. So
mm,
your end tidal CO2 is how much carbon dioxide is left in your blood after a passive exhale because you need the only thing that gets oxygen to release from hemoglobin is CO2. Now, this is called the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve. It's a physiological law. So, when people teach breath work and they hyperventilate, and I try to tell them that there's absolutely nothing good about it, and they want to argue, I'm like, well,
mm,
you could look up the Bohr law because the man who originated the law was Christian Bohr, who was the father of Nobel Prize winner Niels Bohr in 1919. So in 1904, his dad, Christian Bohr, came up with this law. And it's like ridiculous that people don't know this. It should be
mm.
taught in mainstream science. It should don't shouldn't you be teaching people how they breathe?
Yeah.
Shouldn't people know that? But we just take
Mm,
it for granted. We do it all the time. We take it for granted. Well, I feel
mm,
like taking your breath for granted is like brushing your teeth your entire life, but never using toothpaste.
mm,
So
mm,
degradation won't happen right away. It'll take time till you get a cavity. It takes
mm,
time till you build up inflammation. It takes
mm.
time for the inflammation to turn into an itis, right? Dr. Morse taught us itises.
Yeah.
Right? It's just,
Anythingitis.
yeah, anything itis. And it really is just acidosis. It's
Mm,
too much acid in the system.
mm,
It's only one thing or the other. There's only one disease known to man, and that's acidosis. And he's right
mm,
in that respect. He's very much right. But I've also
mm,
heard him talk about breathing because I love when people ask him questions, and he was very against what I teach, but he doesn't know. He was very
mm,
against using your breath and increasing carbon dioxide because he thinks it's a waste. But
mm.
for a short period of time, it's actually it's the most significant thing a human being could do in a positive
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
is breath holding to a point of non-stress.
Mm, yeah. And it's also to it's a Professor Spirit puts it really beautifully, and I'll try to paraphrase what he said in that you can live, days without food. You can live days without water. You can't live a moment without breath. So to ignore a few moments won't be many, but breath
Yeah,
is the first thing that we have as food when we come into the world, and when that's the last thing that leaves us when we leave. It's not a meal. It's
yeah,
not, so that there is pretty evident that
yeah,
it's an aspect of our health that's absolutely vital. And you see the word spirit, you see respiration, spirituality. The word breath is in these words, that it's the core of everything. And that's why I see it as one of the, if not the biggest, um, cock ups, if you will, in the detox world or the world of healing, is people will work out inside. They will be in a heavily closed, air conditioned area where you're circulating the waste that you're eliminating back into the body. You've
Yeah.
got perfumes, you're working with the deodorant on, these other things that suppress the nervous system, that are creating way more metabolic waste than what your body's already generating. And I think that'll get me on to the next question, Bryan. Have you ever experienced long periods of time of the breath with clients or yourself, with these techniques of breathing in your day to day, and when you're training more specifically outside of a fruit based diet, and what the difference was when the fruit based or raw food diet came in, and how that changed it in a positive way?
Say the beginning of the question again.
Have you experienced what are the differences you've experienced from this way of breathing with a raw food fruit based diet versus just a standard diet, whether it be with clients or yourself,
Hmm.
and what
Um,
they were?
yeah, great question, Jake, because I've helped really heavy people regulate their nervous system and they refuse to go raw. So
Mhm.
I've seen unhealthy people who are still overweight, but then start to lose weight because when you teach them how to breathe,
Hmm.
so I think even Dr. Morse will say this, but this really Professor Errett, right? When
Yeah.
you lose 10 pounds, 7 pounds of that comes out as a gas.
Yep.
Because you're not losing body fat, you're losing noxious gas trapped inside your cell.
Yep.
So you don't have to go raw to improve your nervous system. You
Mhm.
can just work on your breathing if you don't want to go raw. But
Yep.
people that go raw are going to transition faster, provided they're working with an iridologist who knows how fast they should be progressing. Because,
Yeah.
you know, I also went into major detox back in March and it was not good. I'm not going to get
Yep.
too far into it. I was on an herbal protocol with a Dr. Morse trained specialist, and my detox went through the roof. And I was
Yep.
crippled for what lasted 3 months. I was crippled for the first 3 weeks. I couldn't move. All this uric acid released in my knee. And you can't control the detox. You can say an iridology, because they did point out my right leg.
Cool. Yeah. Good.
Well, when it happened, I couldn't bend my leg even a millimeter.
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep. I was in
Wow.
agony, and you can't direct that. You don't know when that's going to happen. So that was not good for me. And this is 6.5 years later. I
Mhm.
went still with a significant detox reaction, and I haven't done it since because I can't have that happen again. So
Mhm.
my thing is, I'm sticking with my 95% raw diet. And then sometimes I have, well, I mean, it's pretty much raw. Again, once in a blue moon, I'll have vegetables only because I have to. But at home, I'd never eat anything cooked at home. Never.
Mhm.
It's only once in a blue moon, once or twice a month if I have to go out. But yeah, so you can change your nervous system through breath alone because you're not a fruitarian. Humans are not frugivores, they're breatharian.
Mhm.
They adapted to become a frugivore because
Mhm.
before they learned how to eat, they had to be breathing air.
Mhm.
And if you read Hilton Hoshimo's book, Man's
Yeah.
Higher Consciousness, he'll explain it to you scientifically why that is the case.
Yeah.
And so we adapted. That's the law of adaptation. Charles Darwin gave us survival of the fittest, which is one of the worst theories ever. But his grandson was actually a very forward thinker. And he said, "There's one thing my grandfather didn't take into account, and that was the environment. Like this
Mhm.
system, whatever it is, mammal, animal, invertebrate, is always only responding to the environment.
Mhm.
You can only respond to your environment. So your environment is what you put in your body, how you breathe it, how you drink it, and how you eat it, how you think it, and then where you surround yourself with. I'm in New York City, and people are like, how can you be on the road you're on if you're in New York? I'm like, well, I was born here. And if you go to India, you'll see people meditating in the middle of busy, busy streets.
Yeah.
You should still be able to move mindfully, but there are things I don't like. I don't want to, I wear flat shoes, so I walk on a pavement all the time. I would like to have that changed. At some point,
Hmm.
it would be nice to move out of New York because I've been here my whole life, but I can manage living here on an even better plane than I could 10 years ago. I
Yeah.
can live the life I want here because it's also very accessible to get good food. All
Mm.
winter long, I can get good food. We have a supermarket now called Wegmans, and they have their own hydroponic farms in upstate New York. So they're growing food naturally under lights and vibration and all that.
Well,
Uh, they're able to put out really good food in the winter, and it's not that expensive. So I'm
hydroponics is amazing, man. It grows so fast as well. When you see the amount of water that goes through these
yeah,
pipes and the root systems that like Merlin's beard, I've got them. I live at a community, man, and we were growing lettuces, and the beards coming off of them were like this bushy white, long. It's incredible. The roots, man. It's,
yeah. I mean, we could do so much.
yeah,
So that supermarket is packed. It's overtaken Trader Joe's and Whole Foods because Whole Foods went to the
amazing.
dark side when Amazon bought them. I
Yeah,
try not to get anything at Whole Foods unless I have
yeah,
to.
yeah.
But yeah, and then a raw food diet will clean out your enteric nervous system, will help you feel a lot better, but it won't change the sensory cortex. It'll really
Yeah.
improve more. It'll influence it. It'll really improve more of the motor function because it'll take the acids out of the spaces and then help you feel better. But there's
Mm.
two different, sides to the coin.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing what you shared about even the body's your body's personal detoxification that kicked in 6 years later. And I know that Spiro brings this up as well, that he now, from my understanding, is high up there in in longer periods of being on fruit and and it's amazing what still comes, and it's a blessing, but it can be scary and it can be too much. It can be, how can I what can I do next time so I don't get myself in such a debilitating state? But unlike suppressing the lymphatic system through pharmaceuticals, we can't see. I have clients asking me all the time, Jake, how long will it take for me to reverse this? When will this happen? And I said, I wish I could tell you that, but I can't. I can
Yeah.
foresee that likely this will happen in this window, given what I've seen in your eyes as an iridologist, given what I see with your lymph system, the symptoms you already have, and you'll likely experience symptoms of your old problems again. And that can freak people out. But just like with the breath, there's a self empowerment that comes in the same way you're living in New York, which people would view as not the most optimal living environment. It's not in the tropics, blah, 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 whatever. But that's no excuse. It hasn't stopped you. And I think there's a really important thing you mentioned there is that there are things that you can control every single day. And then there are things that you cannot control. And it's, what are you doing about the things you can control to better yourself in a way that you can be in a sub ideal environment and thrive, you know? And I think it's amazing to see you living in a space where the whole energy is almost flipped to what you're doing, yet you are doing just fine. You're doing more than just fine. And I think a lot of people that I speak to, they say things like, "Oh, I'm living not tropics, or I'm living in this area, or whatever." But we live in a world now where we can get access to information like that. We can get access to good quality food in virtually every place we go in the West. We're pretty fortunate in that regard. And yeah, I just wanted to side note state that because there are a lot of people that feel, oh, my situation is my blockage. When actually, no, you can start breathing differently right now. You can go and choose to purchase something else right now from the store. You could choose not to eat this morning and just fast. You could do that. And I wanted to say as well, Brian, if you ever need help, mate, like just message me, man. I've been working with clients for 3 years, and I have found a way through the mucus diet healing system to slow down or to foresee a big detox coming and slow it down if the client wants to, because I've been in them. I've seen I've seen myself right now. I push too hard. I've got a weakness in my arm. I feel this pain here in the forearm, man. And when I was a
Mm.
teenager, it blew up. I had lactic acid retention, and my whole right side is genetically weaker than my left. And I knew I pushed a little too hard. I'd swung, I'd eaten things as well that wasn't ideal in a sensitive state. Didn't apply my own knowledge to it, and got the better of me. But it's all great lessons. I just wanted to offer that to you, man, because
Thank you.
anyone, when you are taking that self-empowerment step of being aware and taking charge of your health, you will come across things that will be fearful when there are practitioners such as myself, Bryan, through breath, his knowledge and his extensive uh, self-experience through a fruit-based raw diet. We have things, and Professor Spirit as well, and Dr. Morse, we have things that we can help you with that can really get you out of harm's way, or at least out of stress and fear, because that is a binder. And that'll be, I think, the next question, Bryan, is fear with people. How do you tackle that with clients, and how do you see that changing when they start applying conscious breath work in the right way, not in the Wim Hof way? And as a side note, I do want to. I'm glad you said that about Wim Hof, man, because I know people around here that are all for Wim Hof, and I just see them hyperventilating and really not doing well. And that's what attracted me to you, because there was a common sense, almost like it was hitting an intuitive part of me, the same way when I went to Dr. Morse's school 4 years ago or so. There was something he was saying that was striking something deep within me that I knew was beyond anything else I had heard. So, how do you tackle that with fear, and how do you see that change with people when they start applying that? Even as you said, even though they might not be on a perfect diet, the breath change alone is so many positives.
Yeah. Well, the fear is related to acid buildup,
Mm,
right? For
yeah,
absolutely, it's related to acid buildup. So
so
what we
true.
want to try to do is if we can calm the nervous system as fast as possible, that's our best bet. And when I teach people how to breathe and I find out what specific cadence, what pace works best for them, not going on Google and seeing that the perfect breath is 5.5 in and 5.5 out, because that does not mean it's for everyone.
Yeah.
You can always make science to say this is what works best, but that's not, there's no one size fits all. Because actually,
Mm,
just a tiny segue, I'm going to go my healing route a little bit different because I don't want to even have to go into a detox. I'm going to, my goal is to have a fully free functional spine. And when I have a fully free
mm,
functional spine, my cerebral spinal fluid is going to flow unobstructed. And when that happens, your whole body detoxifies in an instant. And some people might call that a Kundalini awakening, a heart chakra opening. That's not what I'm after. I'm after to have a fully free functional spine. And I've already overcome really bad scoliosis from
wow.
wrestling. I'm already cleaning it where it's almost gone, my
Wow.
scoliosis. Yeah. And that was from depressurizing my body through deep breathing. So when
Mm,
you learn how to breathe correctly and you have enough carbon dioxide left in your blood and you're getting sufficient oxygen to your tissues, the oxygen is going to go into the mitochondria. It's going to make heat, and heat's going to release all the toxins that the cell's holding on to. And that's your fear, because normally people don't want to let go of what serves them because their body only knows to be stimulated. So when they get unstimulated, it's actually very shocking
yeah.
because they're so used to being stimulated. So
Yeah.
breathing can calm you down much, much faster. Whereas when you go raw, you can get very uneasy. Like Dr. Morris even said, he left his body, right?
Yeah.
That's something that I don't think we should be fostering. We should try
Mm,
to not get there quickly. We should take
yeah.
our time and build the ground floor and the foundation and go, wow, that foundation, look at that. It's solid. There's concrete everywhere. There's no nooks and crannies. And we're only looking at the basement level. We have to
Yeah.
make sure that that is set before we start building the building. And
Amen, man. Oh my God, I couldn't agree with that more.
and breath is your foundation because you're a
Yeah.
breather. So
Yeah.
immediately within 2 weeks, people start to feel better. If they do the curriculum and they breathe at least 21 minutes a day, they already start to feel better because you're regulating your blood pH. And when that happens, you have more oxygen. And when you have more oxygen, you immediately start feeling better, even though you still need to lose 80 pounds.
Mm, that's incredible. That's incredible. And it's the same way where the way chemistry affects your body, where as soon as you give something that's hydrating, even though you may feel the lack of stimulation, one of the main things I hear without a shadow of a doubt, even if a client is feeling low energy because the adrenals are dropped, the endocrinology is no longer being stimulated, is I always see a pattern of my mind feels clearer. I feel less worried, or there's movement happening in my thoughts I didn't know before, less sticky. I
Yeah.
like Alan Watts uses that phrase of the mind being sticky and how
Yeah.
you don't want to be this sticky or attached. And it's this that's why raw foods, unless you go down the road of nuts and mucus forming raw foods, you can't really emotionally suppress with fruits. It's very hard to do that. I can't. I don't know anyone yet to be able to do that.
That's
And
right.
I think this,
That's a really good point. I never heard that.
yeah, it's something I've noticed with people is the comfort foods is where you emotionally suppress the burritos, the rice, the pastas,
Yeah.
the stimulants. You know, my ones were vegan burritos and caffeine, and these were like my main ones I'd turn to. I grew up seeing emotional eating. I learned that. I have to unlearn that. The same way when you discovered Morse, man, I got to unlearn everything I've known now about the way the body works and how I'm functioning, and when we begin on this path, I think people, and that's why I really am excited for people to hear this discussion because emotional things can come up out of nowhere and they smack you so hard it surpasses physical pain, it surpasses anything physical. And unless someone's experienced deep grief from past traumas, relationship breakups that come up during just the change of your diet, the change of applying deeper breath work, even breath work, you see people can be in tears afterwards after being more conscious and present with who they are because they've spent their entire life avoiding who they are. If you're always digesting food or digesting thoughts, you're never experiencing who you are. That's why I relate so much with what you said, Bryan, that we are first and foremost breatharians. I'm a big follower of Rudolf Steiner, and he totally
Mm.
agrees with that. And I've been a Steiner student, going to Steiner schools my entire life. I have
Wow.
yeah, my mum's a Steiner teacher as well. She was a legend, man. Like just pushing up, like she's. I don't want my kids going to this other system, and I've delved into Steiner's work, and I want to do
Alert
episodes
from
discussing.
calendar. Began raw food diet February 25th, 2019.
Oh my God, that was Siri telling me that I began my raw food diet. Uh, it comes up every month. So today is the 25th. Yes. So every month it tells me when I began my raw food diet.
Oh, that's wicked. I should put that on my. I didn't know Siri could do that. Um,
Oh,
that was so funny. I thought that was like the universe coming in, going something. Yeah. That was so funny. Yeah, and there's these hints, and what I like to show people through my podcast as well is when you start to see another element of truth, everything makes sense even more. And it's not that it's intellectually it's not like it's an intellectual understanding, it's a deeper understanding that you're experiencing within yourself. And I believe it was Socrates that said there's no better fact than a fact experienced from your own life. So anyone that is listening to what Bryan's been saying and discussing here is to start applying these principles and these laws. These are fundamental laws that we just got to wrap our being around, not our mind around, not a study around, but actually wrap our being and our awareness and that willfulness to actually do that. And I think I want to ask what would be a simple way for people. Let's say there's going to be people listening to this that have been working with me, that have been on fruits, raw foods, transitioning, all the rest, or just literally hearing this for the first time. What can they do right now to start implementing better breathing techniques in their day to day and also when they are exercising?
switch to 100% nasal breathing, except when you're eating and talking. Your mouth
Cool.
should never be open to breathe, never. But people have noses that are not working very well. So when they close their mouth, their brain will sense a feeling of suffocation. So they'll
Mm,
immediately go back to mouth breathing. They don't think about it. So we call that non conscious.
mm,
So you close your mouth and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to breathe. You catch yourself, right? You're at the computer and you're like, oh, wow. So you close your mouth, but then you start to breathe, but you're not getting enough oxygen in your body because your nose is compressed. The back of the
mm,
nose isn't open. That's why the mouth has to open because the back of the nose ain't working neurologically. So then you go, oh, close my mouth, go back to breathing through my nose, but then all of a sudden the brain can't get enough oxygen, so it just automatically, boop, the mouth starts opening again. And then you go, oh, my
Mm,
mouth is open again. And you're like, how did that happen? Because non-conscious behaviors are locked in the sensory cortex. And that's what we want to work on is the sensory cortex. And we do that by single side nostril breathing. So you can literally just spend a couple of minutes a day trying to breathe out of one side. Because when you
mm,
try to breathe out of one side, your brain will go, I'm not getting enough air in. So if you feel suffocated, you immediately stop. You never take on the stress. You wait and then you try again because your brain will match the flow rate of the air coming in. Your body doesn't want to breathe in really fast because it doesn't have time to do all good things with the air, like humidify it,
mm,
heat it up, so that it doesn't stress the lungs. So when you mouth breathe, you're stressing the lungs because you're breathing in cold air that's not
mm.
getting worked on by the nasal passages and the sinuses. And then you're not producing that miracle gas called nitric oxide. So you're not getting any vasodilation. And you're actually absorbing less oxygen when you inhale through the mouth. So the most important thing is to build an awareness of nasal breathing 100% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, how do you break the pattern of what I just said? What if you're that person who sees you're opening your mouth, you close it, but then it's open 5 seconds later? Well, that's your brain. It's not actually practicing breathing. It's your brain function, and that, like I said in the beginning, can be altered through physical trauma to the head, face, and neck, choking, suffocation,
Yeah.
emotional trauma, deaths. Um, so in that regard, you'd have to learn some techniques to
Mhm,
help your brain to restore natural function, which is
mhm.
nose breathing.
Yeah. And I imagine you coach people with this, you consult people with this. This is what you do. Yeah, and anyone interested, all of Brian's details will be in the description. And I really encourage anyone who has, and I swear I see it with every person, actually, Brian. I walk around and you see people in stores, you see people on the street, they're just like head forward like this, their mouth like this. You see the teeth are generally disaligned. There's no structure happening with the jaw centered and the natural flow of oxygen coming out, everything. And there's two. There's one, as you said, the blockage, but there's also the unconsciousness, or my attention's being taken away from who I am into the game, into the screen, into this other pull outside of ourselves. And it's bringing you back into really basic faculties of human care. I would say that even the discussion of diet, even the discussion of what's right and wrong, the fact that humanity needs to discuss these things, in my opinion, shows how far we have fallen. That we why we even discuss this should be like an intuitive baseline. As you said, this is the foundation. And it was this point I wanted to make before, and I've just remembered it when I did my first episode with Spira, with Professor Spira. He spoke about people always trying to get out of themselves. And that this new age hippie movement is, I'm going to do mushrooms, I'm going to do psychedelics to get out of who I am, not maybe to learn something, but it's like being in existence or being human is a negative thing. That being alive is, I hate myself, I don't like who I am, so I'm going to get out of myself. What about really getting who we are in our foundational dualistic sense, the strongest, most powerful, amazing version of ourselves as possible, and then see what happens afterwards. And then maybe we can move out of body with choice, opposed to, oh, actually, I just want to leave because this is too much. And I think that
Yeah.
is a deeper level of which we could do a whole other episode on, and that is the trajectory of human development, which is that if we're still messing around in these forms of eating flesh and eating junk food and abusing our bodies and not being aware of who we are as a human being. Even the word human, hue is color and being is to experience. So experiencing of color, what is that? And
The
and
full
these
spectrum of
words that
life.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you see even that you've probably seen the more scale of the pyramid of levels of detoxification. And you've got like fruit smoothies, mono fruit juice, and liquid, and then there's nothing. What's that? Breatharianism. What's that? Out of body. That's bye bye to physical dimensions.
Yeah.
And I've heard you speak on this before, and I think it was an episode with Jillian. You've done a few, and you touched on some great points about that and Spira has as well, of aspects of existence that most people aren't aware of. And I always wonder as well, what would humankind look like if this was a baseline? And I think maybe to finish off, where would you see, if you saw hypothetically humans going down a raw food, fruit-based transition lifestyle, not playing the long game? This is a process. This is a lifestyle, not a quick fix. These are things you, as you said, you like to see people have positive changes with the breath, with the changes of how they breathe within 2 weeks. I have that for my clients in a different way of how their body responds within the first 4 weeks. We got to play it the long game. How do you see humanity going, and what sort of world could we be living in outside of suffering and fear? Because people will be listening to this going, oh, well, I'm too far gone, or it's too much for me, or well, I've done this, or I've messed up too many times, and the mind's taken hold. Outside of all of that, where could humanity be?
Yeah. Wow, Jake. My answer, that was amazing. You're very, very connected. It shows you how well your upbringing was and your schooling. Because what you
No,
say is,
mum's a legend. Mum's a legend.
yeah, you're really on point. For me, it would be about, I forgot what I was going to say, but it's, oh man, I had a really good point, and then I wanted to compliment you, and then I forgot my point.
That's
What
right.
was your question again? Because it'll come back to me when.
About that humanity now is
Oh
we're having discussions about things that are just
right.
why we're discussing diet, breathing, all that. Has it come back?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
cool.
So, we haven't fallen from grace. We've just stopped remembering, and I think that humanity is remembering because all the kids that are being born into the new energy. This is what I was going to say. That wasn't going to be so nice. Unfortunately, it's going to take for part of the population to transition. And as the old guard transitions, I would even consider people my age being the old guard because I don't know anybody who does what I do here in New York City. So, I mean, it's just not, my friends think I'm stupid. They're like, you look great, but you're crazy.
Yeah.
So I do think it's going to take the younger generation to change the world. I think that the golden age is upon us, but it's not right around the corner. I think it's going to take time because that energy has to build and grow. I think the consciousness of America is about 215 according to the David Hawkins scale. 215 is beyond, it's above reason, right? So once you get above 200, they say you can't stop it from continuing. So we know that the consciousness cannot be stopped, but it's not going to skyrocket until you get to around 400. And when you get to 400, that's when everybody, the small, start to really bring the many with them. And that's probably going to take another 30, 40, 50 years. That's my belief, though, because it's not going to be meteoric. We just got to 200 only like a decade ago. And now we're at 215, which means it can't be stopped. But 500 is a level of love, and or peace. No, love is. I don't know. I think I can't remember from the book Power versus Force, but the Buddha was 1,000, right? The level of love, pure love, and then peace is I think 400 or 500, and that's the level we need to get to create the real shift when the Earth just transcends in a blink of an eye into the fifth dimension.
What's that scale you referenced?
The Consciousness Scale by Dr. David Hawkins, Power versus Force.
Cool. I wrote the book down. I'm gonna get that, man, because that makes so much sense with what I know with looking at Rudolf Steiner's work and the split of what's happening right now. We're seeing this split between what he calls Ahriman and the Christ path or Christ consciousness, and you have this polarity pull, this two roads going in separate directions, so apparent. And my mum sees that with students all the time. My cousin even, she's born into the world asking questions. Well, I'm eating fish. She's like 3, but there's a fish over there in the tank. Is that the same thing? Yes, it is. Straight away, no longer eating fish. Asking these sort of questions. Kids are just born. There's something else going on, and it's beyond an intellectual comprehension. There's a shift happening that is so apparent that it makes your jaw hit the floor. You just go, wow. Like that this wasn't happening in the
Yeah.
previous generations. It is so swift that you see these younger and as you said, I agree that it's the younger generation that are going to have to come in, and that you'll see things being pulled away from you. So to anyone experiencing, a breakup, experiencing turmoil, this is all a shift. It's a massive shift happening on a larger scale. Both myself and Bryan have been personally experiencing these, and these are heavy. You can't get heavier than these. And when you humble yourself to let them process and not steer to the negative forces that will pull you, you'll move more swiftly. You will move through it with more ease. People often, I think, view people that are very spiritual or stoics almost like unfeeling. You don't feel anymore. Oh, you're too like dead. No, it's that you're not playing the game of emotion anymore. You're not getting lost in that and wallowing in, oh, poor me, this disease I've been diagnosed with, or poor me, this or this happened to me. You're not playing that anymore. You're playing that, okay, I can transcend this. And through things like an awareness through breath, making better conscious choices with your diet, that you are the one in control, and that you can transcend these darker forces, if you will, that are pulling you left, right, and sideways, and start to see this transform. As you said, with the consciousness scale, they'll reach a point in yourself where that can't be stopped. And I made a reference to Alan Watts before, and he has another analogy about the bucket, as when you realize something, all the water falls out of the bucket at once. There may not be degrees of that awakening, but you get it. And then it starts to happen bit by bit over the years. You see those things shift. And I love the way we rounded off this discussion, Bryan, because there is always a reason far deeper happening in humanity that has never been ever more apparent than right now, in my opinion. It's the time we're alive in is an incredible polarizing time where there's so much darkness. But just as Dr. Moore says, if you can think it, it's happening somewhere. It has happened. And because there's so much darkness is also because there is so much light. Same way in chemistry. You can get so alkaline, you can get the same on the acidity side. You've got too alkaline is too much. You've got things like lye and bleach. And then on the too acidic side, beyond hormone levels, you've got chemo and battery acid and all the rest. And where do we fit in the middle there, and how do we get to that, and not to be too aggressive, not to be so pushy with ourselves and harsh on ourselves. And Bryan, man, I really love this episode, my friend, and you've covered some amazing things. I've got 2 pages of little notes here. And any final words, man? Any final words to the listeners, and for people listening today, and maybe something else they can do other than a reminder to people, sorry, as well, begin nasal breathing consciously. Obviously, if you're eating a congesting diet, get on some transition foods. That's what I'd recommend. Unclog your nasal passages as well, because your physical body will be affected by that. Begin this going through breathing through each nostril, and observe that. Don't push till you are stressing your body out. Any final words there, Bryan, in relation to that, or anything else you want to discuss as well?
Yeah. My motto is win the day every day. So take right action. So
Mm,
before you go to eat something, you take right action. And right action is whatever you feel is right action. And if you have no judgment over what you're doing, then you're going to be more successful. You could
mm,
be very overweight and happy and not be unhealthy. There are people like that.
yep.
There are very happy people who are overweight. So the goal is to take right action and to live your best life. So if you're always happy in the moment, then you're going to gravitate to make better choices. So it's not just about thinking positively, it's about
Of
taking
course.
right action.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's really the biggest thing is you you know you have to use your mind as an ombudsman. So like
Mm,
newspapers are supposed to have a thing called an ombudsman, and they're supposed to make sure that what they're publishing has been fact checked, not
mm,
this whole crazy thing we've been going through.
no,
But that's what the ombudsman was for. Well, your brain is your own ombudsman. When you can breathe well, meaning you can breathe slowly and you could breathe deep, you create a buffer between you and your action. So you have a thought, you have a belief, then you have a thought, then you take an action. So when you're breathing well and deeply, you have time to decide what kind of action to take. And
mm,
that's my biggest takeaway, is that you learn to breathe through your nose, and you really pay attention to the actions that you take throughout your day.
Mm,
Try to take as right action as you can, because you don't want to stress yourself out either. Like, oh, you didn't do anything bad. There is no
mm,
evil. There is, people may say, of course there's evil. There isn't. There just
mm,
is, right?
mm.
It's about taking
Yeah.
right action or wrong, and not right or wrong. And right action
Mm,
doesn't mean this is right. It means it's morally right. It's of the
mm,
highest integrity. So
mm.
that to me is right action. And then as a
Yeah.
breathing instructor, I know that this is my passion and my purpose in life. My human design says that I'm literally living the embodiment of my soul's purpose. I couldn't be
Mm,
any better. I'm literally been put into this body, this gifted body, and then being a trainer, being an athlete, now being a breathing coach, to just being able to teach people of all the stuff that I went through, because I've had the worst. I've been through the
mm.
worst of all the students I've had. I'm the worst I've ever met. I'm do that. They're like, "Come on." I'm like, "I'm telling you." I
Mm,
was told that my organs were failing at 46 years old. So
mm,
now to be a good instructor means you have to have wisdom, and you have to live. Your wisdom creates your right actions. So
mm.
now I just make sure I take right actions all the time. You know,
That's that's beautiful, Brian. That's a great way to end it, man. And I couldn't agree with you more. And it's as well breathing. When you give yourself that space, you will make the right choice, opposed to rushing and rushing and rushing through everything. This whole fast food, microwave your food, do it quickly, everything's go, go, go. Not at all. It doesn't have to be that way. And you can change that by these simple things that we've discussed.
right.
And man, I thank you so much for being here, Brian. It's been absolutely incredible. And this is the first time I've met Brian face to face, and we've chatted a bit, but it's been an absolutely beautiful interaction, my friend. And thank you so much. And anyone to find Brian, I'll put his Instagram, his website, everything, all his information down below. And this will be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and all over Instagram as well. We'll have it there. And uh, thank you so much, my friend. It's been an absolute honor.
Yeah, Jake, it's been a pleasure being interviewed by you. You're a very intelligent young man with a beautiful energy around you. I can read auras, and you have a really great aura. So thank you for
Um,
inviting me on here and being such a great host. And thank you to everybody
oh,
else there. I hope you enjoyed
uh,
this.
legend, mate. Thank you so much. Bye
All
for
right.
now.
Peace and love. Bye.